Jai Sri Krishna. In Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 7, the sons of Droṇa punish. So here in verse 1, Sonokyo vacha Nirgarte Naradeshuta Bhagavana Badharayana Sutovasto Dhavi Priyatam Tataha Karma Karo Drusbhihu. It means Rishi Sonokya asked, O Sutta, the great and transcendently powerful Vyasadeva heard everything from Sri Narada Muni. So after Narada departure, what did Vyasadeva do? Here the purport is in this chapter the clue for describing Srimad Bhagavata is picked up as Maharaj Parikshit is miraculously saved in the womb of his mother. This was caused by the Runi Ashwathama, Acharya Drona's son, who killed the five sons of Draupadi while they were asleep, for which he was punished by Arjuna. Before commencing the great epic Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Vyasadeva realized the whole truth by trance in devotion. So here in the next verse, verse 2, Suto Vacha, Brahmanadyamam saraswabhamatmasya आश्रमः पश्चिमे तते समयप्रस्य इति प्रोक्ता ऋषीणां शस्त्रवर्धनमः. It means here Sri Sutta said, on the western bank of the river Saraswati, which is intimately related with the Vedas, there is a cottage for meditation at Samya which enliven the transcendental activities of the sages. So here the purport is for spiritual advancement of knowledge, a suitable place and atmosphere are definitely required. The place on the western bank of the Saraswati is especially suitable for this purpose, and there is the ashram of Vyasadeva at S- Samya Prasa. Sri Vyasadeva was a householder, yet his residential place is called as ashrama. An ashrama is a place where spiritual culture is always foremost. It does not matter whether the place belongs to a householder or a medicant. The whole Varnashrama system is so designed that each and every status of life is called an ashrama. This means that spiritual culture is the common factor for all. The brahmacharis, the grahasthas, the vanaprasthas, and the sannyasis all belongs to the same mission of the life, namely realization of the supreme. Therefore, none of them are less important as far as spiritual culture is concerned. The difference is a matter of a formality on the strength of a renunciation. The sannyasis are held in high estimation on the strength of a practical renunciations. So here in the next verse, it was mentioned that in that place, Sarila Vyasadeva, in his own ashrama, which was surrounded by berry trees, sat down to meditate after touching water for purification. So here it is mentioned, Tasmin Sarva Asrame Vyaso Bhadri Sandha Mandite Asinapa Upasprasya Pranidhanyayu Manahas Swayam. It means here the purport is under instruction of his spiritual master Sri Narada Muni, Vyasadeva concentrated his mind in that transcendental place of meditation. That is what Sanyagrisi telling to the great sage at Nimisaranya. Then in the next verse, again, Sut- the Sutta said to the great sage at the place called as Nimisaranya, thus he fixed his mind. Thus, Sarila Vyasadeva fixed his mind, perfectly engaging it by linking it in a devotional service, bhakti yoga, without any things of materialism, and thus he saw the absolute personality of a Godhead along with his external energy, which was under full control. So here it is mentioned, Bhakti yogene manasi samyak सम्यक प्रणिहिते मले अप्रस्यात् पुरुषं पूरणं मन्यं च तत् अप्रस्यम्. It means here the purport is perfect vision of the absolute truth is possible only by the linking process of devotional service. This is also confirmed in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. One can perfectly realize the absolute truth personality of a Godhead only by the process of a devotional service, and one can either into the kingdom of God by such perfect knowledge. In imperfect realization of the absolute by the partial approach of a impersonal Brahma or localized Paramatma does not permit anyone to enter into the kingdom of Lord. Sri Narada advised Sarila Vyasadeva to become absorbed in the transcendental meditation on the personality of a Godhead and his activities. Sarila Vyasadeva did not take notice of the effluence of the Brahman because that is not absolute vision. The absolute vision is the personality of a Godhead, as it is confirmed in Śrīmad-Bhāgavata Gita 7, chapter 7, verse 19. Vasudevah Sarvam iti. In the Upanishad also it is confirmed that Vasudeva, the personality of a Godhead, is covered by the golden glory Harinamayane Patrena Bhali of an impersonal Brahma. And when that curtain is removed by the mercy of the Lord, the real face of the Absolute is seen. The Absolute is mentioned here as Purusha or person. The absolute personality of Godhead is mentioned in so many Vedic literature and in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. The Purusha is confirmed as the eternal and original person. The absolute personality of a Godhead is the perfect person. The Supreme Person has manifold energies without which the internal, external, and the marginal energy are specifically important. The energy mentioned here is the external energy, as you will be clear from the statement of her activities. The internal energy is there along with the absolute person as the moonlight is there with the moon. The external energy is compared to the darkness because it keeps the living entities in the darkness of ignorance. The word aprasyam suggests the spiritual maya or energy exhibited in the absolute realm. When one is under the shelter of internal potency, the darkness of the material ignorance is at once dissipated, and even though who are atmoram or fixed in trances take shelter of this maya or internal energy, devotional service or bhakti yoga is the function of internal energy. Thus there is no place for inferior energy or material energy, just as there is no place for darkness is in the glance of a spiritual light. Such internal energy is even superior to the spiritual bliss attainable in the conception of a material impersonal Brahma. It is stated in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita that the impersonal Brahma effluence is also an emanation from the absolute personality of a Godhead, Sri Krishna. The Param, Parama Purusha cannot be anyone except Sri Krishna himself, as will be explained in the latter shlokas. So here in the next verse 5, see Sutta telling to the great Rishi at Nimisaranya that due to the external energy, the living entities, although transcendental to the three mode of material nature, thinks of himself as a material product and thus undergoes the reaction of a material misery. So here it is mentioned, yaya sammohito jiva atmanam triguna poroyopi monute naraitam tatkarma kartam charvipadyate. It means, here it is mentioned here, the purport is the root cause of suffering by the materialistic living being is pointed out with the remedial measures which are to be undertaken and also the ultimate perfection to be gained. All this is mentioned in this particular verse. The living being is by constitution transcendental to material enhancement, but he is now imprisoned by the external energy and therefore he thinks himself a one of the material products, and due to his unholy contact, the pure spiritual entities suffer material misery under the mode of a material nature. The living entity misunderstands himself to be a material product. This means that the present perverted weight of thinking, feeling, and willing under material condition is not natural for him, but he has his normal way of thinking, feeling, and willing. The living being in his original state is not without thinking, willing, and feeling power. It is also confirmed in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam that the actual knowledge of the conditioned soul is now covered by science. Thus, the theory that a living being is absolute impersonal Brahma is refuted herein. This cannot be, because the living entity has his own way of thinking in his original unconditional state also. The present conditioned state is due to the influence of the external energy, which means that the illusionary energy takes the initiative while the Supreme Lord is aloof. The Lord does not desire that a living being be illuminated by external energy. The external energy is aware of this fact, but still she accepts a thankless task of keeping the forgotten soul under illusion by her bewildering influence. The Lord does not interfere with the task of illusionary energy because such performance of illusionary energy are also necessary for reformation of conditioned soul. An affectionate father does not like his children to be chastised by another agent, yet he puts his disobedient children under the custody of a severe man just to bring them to order. But the all affectionate Almighty Father at the same time desire relief for the conditioned soul, relief from the clutches of the illusionary energy. The king puts the disobedient citizen within the wall of jail, but sometimes the king desires the prisoner relief personally goes there and pledged for reformation, and on his doing so the prisoner are set free. Similarly, the Supreme Lord descends his kingdoms upon to the kingdom of the illusionary energy, personally gives reliefs in the form of Bhagavad Gita. Herein We personally suggest that although the way of illusionary energy are very stiff to overcome, one who surrenders unto the lotus feet of the Lord Sri Krishna is set free by the order of a Supreme. This surrender process is remedial measure for getting relief from the bewildered way of this illusionary energy. The surrendering process is completely by the influence of association. The Lord has suggested, therefore, that by the influence of speeches of mm, saintly person who have actually realized the supreme conditioned soul are engaged in his transcendental loving service. They get a taste for hearing about the Lord, and by such hearing only they gradually elevated to the platform of respect, devotion, and attachment of the Lord. The whole thing is completely by the surrounding process. Herein also the same suggestion is made by the Lord in his incarnation of Vyasadeva. This means that the conditioned soul are being reclaimed by the Lord both way, namely the process of punishment by the external energy of the Lord and by himself as the spiritual master within and without. Within the heart of every living being, the Lord himself as the super soul Paramatma becomes the super master, spiritual master, and the form and from without the he becomes the spiritual master in the shape of scripture saints and the inferior spiritual master. This is still more explicitly explained in the next shloka. Personal superintendence of the illusionary energy is confirmed in the Vedas, the Kena Upanishad, in the relation to the demigod controlling power. Herein also it is clearly stated that the living entity is controlled by the external energy of the personal capacity. The living beings thus subject to control the external energy is differently situated. It is clearly, however, from the present statement of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam that the same external energy is situated in the inferior position because the personality of a Godhead or the perfect being. The perfect being or the Lord can be approached even by the illusionary energy, who can only work on the living entities. Therefore, it is sheer imagination that the Supreme Lord is illusionated by the illusionary energy and thus become a living being. If the living being and the Lord were in the same category, then it would have been quite possible for Vyasadeva to see it, and there would have been no question of a material distress on the part of illusion, illusioned being. For the Supreme Being is fully cognizant, so there are so many unspeculous imagination on the part of a monist to endeavor to put both the Lord and the living beings in the same category. Had the Lord and the living beings been the same, they then Sarila Sukadeva Goswami would not have taken the trouble to describe the transcendental pastime of the Lord, for they would all be manifestation of the illusionary energy. Srimad Bhagavatam is the summum bonum remedy for suffering humanity in the clutches of Maya. Sri Vyasadeva, therefore, first of all diagnosis all the actual disease of the conditioned soul, that is they are being illusioned by the external energy. He also saw the perfect supreme being from whom the illusionary energy is far removed. Though he saw both the disease conditioned soul and all the causes of the disease and the remedial measures are suggested in the next verse, Both the Supreme Personality of a Godhead and the living beings are undoubtedly qualitatively one. But the Lord is the control of the illusionary energy, whereas the living entities is controlled by the illusionary energy. Thus, the Lord and the living being are simultaneously one and different. Another point is distinct here in that external relations between the Lord and the living being is transcendental. Otherwise, the Lord would not have taken the trouble to reclaim the conditioned soul from the clutches of Maya. In the same way, the living entity is also required to revive his natural love and affection for the Lord, and that is the highest perfection of the living entities. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam treats the conditioned soul with an aim to that goal of life. Jai Jagannath, Jai Shri Krishna.